Herkese merhabalar.
Hello everyone. Zero building, and I would like to welcome you all to our session. And my name is Selen. I am the moderator of this session, and the session is titled as Green Procurement Strategies and Implementation of Roadmap for Turkey. The green procurement opportunities are as follows. Turkey can generate its electricity or can buy it through the distribution cities and can sign contract for renewable. And these are the options for the procurement. Of course, these options have advantages and disadvantages, and I'm sure we are all on the same points. Any position that we are taking in this respect will affect our position. So it's a strategic issue. So we need to be careful about decision. We need to be sensitive to adjust our systems and also to regulate our legislation, and our regulations need to be flexible and also transparent, because our energy, it is for our future. All parties can get more benefit, and in order to reach this point, strategies and legislations are important, and also the market is important. In our panel, we have panelists to discuss the situation in Turkey, and we have pioneering and leading panelists today. And our key topic is green procurement strategies. As you know, there are various subtopics, and I will ask our panelists to make their presentations on this issue, and there will be a Q&A session to understand the issue in a better way. Let me introduce our panelists in an alphabetical order. We have Sıla Duran. She is from TurkeyEnerjisa. She is the co-founder in Renewable Energy. She will talk about the applications of renewable energy certificates and the renewable energy guarantee certificates, because it might be confusing for everyone. What is this YEK-G, etc. And Sıla will make a presentation to clarify all these points. And we will listen to Duygu. She is from KfW IPEX Bank Project Manager. She will talk about the good peer-to-peer electricity trading platforms, support growth of rooftop PV solar market in Turkey. The third panelist will be Mr. Mustafa Daldal from ManagerJLL. He is the head of the distributed generation and e-mobility. He will talk about ESCO model for sustainable buildings. As you follow from the market, especially the renewable energy issue, the ESCO is very important for individuals and also for companies. It has been discussed for 2 years, but there are only a few countries that has implemented this issue for a long period, and Enerjisa is one of the companies, and we will listen to this issue from the Enerjisa, which will be very useful. And the fourth panelist is Mr. Eren Akkale. He is the JLL facilities manager, and he will talk about how JLL achieve global net zero carbon emissions, and he will talk about and it is the owner of the commercial buildings in Turkey and in different parts of the world, and it has several activities and also has an objective to achieve this ends up. And I would like to inform you that we are providing simultaneous interpretation in Turkish and in English. Let's begin with Sıla, and I kindly ask other panelists to turn off their mics. Yes, Sıla, the floor is yours. Hello, everyone.
Tekrar merhabalar.
Hello again. Today, I will talk about an issue But we have real experts here, and they will also talk about this issue. I will mainly focus on certifications and GETAs. First of all, the renewable energy procurement. In addition to green energy, what are the motivations, these scope 2 emissions? Because the scope 2 emissions are about the consumption and also procurement process are completed. This includes electricity, heating and cooling systems, and it covers all these emissions. You can get the detailed information through this YEK-G protocol scope to guidance. And it is the emissions when you consume these energies. The reason for choosing these energies is related to carbon footprint, and also it aims to reduce it to zero. It is the certifications or GETAs and their impact on this, and the renewable energy. In the case of electricity, they can be reduced to zero, and also new facilities can be increased which use low carbon energies, especially these clean energy is very important, and sustainable development goals is very important. And you can make contributions to this issue. In this renewable energy procurement and supply, you can say, for example, you can make your contract with the producers, but there is need for a standardization because electricity is distributed through networks, and then you get this electricity from the distribution networks, or you, for example, you can talk to a company as a retailer, as an end user, but if this company has no renewable energy facilities, then you will not be able to get it. So the electricity supply, in order to claim that you consume green energy, I think the common issue is the renewable energy on the spot in its original place. I will not go into details because other panelists are the real experts of this issue and they can give you more details. Another issue is that YETA, it is the renewable energy supply contracts. And the renewable energy procurement contracts, unlike the contracts with the conventional contracts that you sign with the providers for 1 or 2 years, but consumers are the investors of the facility and power plant, and an independent project developer commits that he or she will make the comments from the very beginning, and the finance is designed according to this position, and you are involved in these discussions. These are the contracts that are signed for 8 to 10 years period, and the power plant process involves the consumers from the very beginning, and you consume the electricity according to the contract provisions. Yet, especially the renewable energy procurement contracts, because these there is need for an investment, a direct investment, and the electricity that is generated is directly given to the consumers who have this authority. It is important. Of course, there are different methods and there are different practices, especially in the United States and in Europe. We have seen different practices. It is a system that emerged in the US, but as you follow, Spain, Portugal are the countries that we see this practice very common and very often. The key point that we should pay attention is consumers' concerns are about the price, because the investment, we know that the investment costs are included in and are reflected in the price, because if there is no expertise in building a power plant, then there might be extra cost. But if you make a contract with a real expert, then you can fix the cost for next 10 years, period. And it's a long period. Some users consider that it's a long period, and for the procurement of the green energy and for institutional and for the actions. These renewable energy procurement contracts are the ideal way. When we look at this issue, and users who have no chance to make investment in this issue, or they have no chance due to their locations, prefer this one. And the renewable energy certificates operate as follows. The consumer sign a contract with the company that produces it, and there are systems that confirm these certificates at national or international level, and then they transfer the energy to the consumer. All the renewable energy certificate represents 1 megawatt electricity that is generated within the system. It might be procured, the procurement can be accomplished through the electricity or in an independent way. That means if there is a company that has this renewable energy in its portfolio, already in its portfolio, then you will get this, and in response, you will get the certificate of this energy. However, if the company, as the second alternative and second methodology, if there is a company which doesn't have it in its portfolio, then you can make the same contract, and the same provider, the same supplier can provide this, or you can directly get the certificate from another supplier, and then you can use it in your carbon footprint reports, and you can reduce your emissions to 0, and you can use it. And currently we have a new system. We have this YEK-G. It is a renewable energy fund, and it has been approved by IPEX, which is the energy marketing operators system. And it is a system that has come into force this year. And since 2015, many users and many producers, there is another certification system, which is called IREC, And this IREC, of course, these certificates are simple systems, and any carbon footprint without calculating this carbon footprint, you can get the energy, and then you approve that you are using renewable energy, or you support a renewable energy. That's all from my side. Of course, if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer, and I will go into details upon your questions. Thank you, Sıla Hanım. Now I would like to move to Duygu Hanım. Yes, over to you, Duygu. Technical problem, sorry. The presenter is trying to figure out the technical problem. The presenter apologizes for the technical problem that she has faced. I think you can see my screen now, right? Yes, we can see it. Hello again. Duygu Chaman. Let me introduce myself. I am working as a project manager in KfW, and we are currently providing financing solutions. Today, I would like to talk about the electricity commerce and electricity trade and its impact on growth. How did I begin working in this? I began working on digital innovation and also entrepreneurship. I completed my MA in this program. I covered different companies. I had a chance to visit different companies in London, in China, Hong Kong, etc. And I also visited Google, and I realized how these companies pay attention to this issue and attribute importance to this issue. And then I decided about my MA thesis topic, and I decided to work on P2P and whether electricity can support and electricity commercial activities can support. And I examined many countries, and I had depth interview with different companies, with five of them. And following this issue, I concluded that P2P electricity commercial activities can make contributions to the energy saving in Turkey. There are three main criteria. The first one is there is need for smart networking systems. And in this system, all the parties in Turkey and all the stakeholders in Turkey will be on the same page, and transparency mechanisms is another important element, because we are talking about millions of people, and millions of people will be able to operate and act in a safe way, and also the procurement and transaction activities will be carried out in a safe way. The last point is the transparent income level, and peer-to-peer commercial platforms will provide new income opportunities and also improve the situation. What about the current situation in Turkey? What about the current situation of the rooftop energy? It is 1 gigawatt in Turkey, but according to research, Turkey has a huge solar energy capacity and potentiality, and it is up to 15 gigawatt, but we are currently using only 1 gigawatt. Peer-to-peer electricity commercial activities, I think, is very important for the sharing economy, for the shared economy, and the shared economy is defined as follows. Consumers sell their or authorizes other users to access their energy. By this way, the unused energy is directly involved in energy. As you know, this Airbnb is the key example, and who can guess that Airbnb could reach at this capacity, although it began only as a small idea. And there's an interesting research. There are 6 countries, including Turkey, and these countries were examined within the scope of the shared economy. And Turkey has 33% capacity for this shared economy. I don't want to interrupt, but I think we can't see your screen. Can you change the slides, please? And she was saying Turkey is culturally inclined to and culturally suitable for this shared economy. Thanks for this warning. And the electricity commercial activities. There are 3 main stakeholders. The first one is the platform itself. The second is the prosumers, and the third one is the consumer itself. And the platform has the key role in terms of securing the safety of the system. Prosumers, who are producing and consuming at the same time, can sell their energy to the market through this platform and to other actors. And the consumers, who are the last components, can access the electricity directly. And the roof. What about the current developments in the world? In 2020, Bloomberg launched its report on long-term capacity outlook, and Turkey will reach 38% of this energy capacity share, and there are some organizations and associations which are working on this, and one of them is the Renewable Energy Association. It's IRENA, and there is a roadmap according to this report. There are 3 main elements. The first one is innovative technologies like blockchain, or in addition to blockchain, these peer-to-peer electricity commercial activities will become more transparent and will have a more flexible space. And there's also another electricity platform called Power Ledger, which is in Australia. And the second one is the community models. And the main objective is to use technique is to provide this issue for those who have no capacity because of their housing capacity, and we share solar, and there is another company in Germany. The we share solar is from the Netherlands, and the third one is the market regulations, so that the peer-to-peer commercial activities can be integrated into existing system. What are the potential benefits for Turkey? Is as we know, the rooftop system payback is considerably or relatively long, and the extra amount of energy that is generated can be directed to other areas and then can generate more income, so that the payback period will be shortened. The second issue is that the continuously increasing electricity cost, because according to the research, there has been an increase more than 100%. It is 120% in last several years. And the third one is, especially during the pandemic, as other panels stated, or other panels will continue to state, this decarbonization, which is very important for the clean energy by using more solar energy and more green energy. And the last point is the socioeconomic value investment. For those who use this platform can get extra income and also can create new employment opportunities. And the research concludes that there are some recommendations. The first one is, of course, regulation needs to be completed, and for the PV or rooftop systems should be allowed for everyone. And there is need for also a change in behavior as in the case of Airbnb. And the electricity also should be shared, and should be shared by everyone. And also smart networks. As Sıla stated, standardization is very important, and standardization is very important so that people can access these systems in an easier way. And also set up by one click. For example, you order water by one click, and you can order electricity by one click, and there is need for standardization in this respect, and it needs to be considered in this respect. And also we can click on one button and then we can achieve green economy or green energy. And I will be happy to get your questions, but your questions can be directed to me at this email address. Thanks, Duygu Hanım.
Now I would like to continue with Mr. Mustafa's presentation. The floor is yours. I'm sharing my presentation with you now. I'd like to greet all the panelists and the audience. Can you see my presentation well? Yes? Can we check slides? Yes, it is working. Let me go back to the beginning. I do not mean to take up too much of your time. We work in distributed generation and electromobility group division. I can continue from where Ms. Duygu left off in an integrated way. Actually, we deal with both the consumption and the generation potential in terms of renewable resources, and also most intensively solar related projects And also we have energy efficiency projects in different segments. Also, we have electromobility industry participation through eCharge, another subsidiary of us. I would like to refer to these trends very briefly and explain how the world is changing. We summarize it as 5D. That's how we create our strategies at Enerjisa, because these trends are taking place simultaneously, and they change the paradigm about the energy phenomena. Distribution is one of the most important parameters influencing all others, and our division is distributed generation, as I told you. Here, we are able to generate energy where it's consumed, referring to a huge paradigm shift, and costs also fall very quickly. And after the developed countries, other countries in the eastern part of the world have commonplace applications. Decarbonization is, of course, another main parameter. All these trends want to serve the purpose of achieving decarbonization through energy efficiency and increased renewable energy use. Democratization means that the consumer is now integrated to the system, becoming a producing consumer, having a say in these systems. That means, of course, deregulation of the current conventional infrastructure systems. And also we have digitalization, which actually helps all these trends accelerate and paves the way for them. There is another beautiful development, probably addressed by the other panelists. Yesterday, we told at the UN General Assembly that we are going to be supporting the Paris Agreement, meaning that it is not going to be anymore a barrier to be overcome by Turkey. We are going to be a supporting side, implementing what is required by obligations more and more. As for the global net zero reports, they are prepared by International Renewable Energy Agency and International Energy Agency. Here, we probably wanted to provide a source, as these panels will be uploaded to YouTube, and viewers will later be able to check presentations. So, I mean, they are general facts referring to 2030 and 2050. We have mid and long-term goals for decarbonization. We need to actually fulfill a performance which is higher than what we have today, and that's not possible without the support of the governments. Just as an example, when you look at the buildings with zero emission, actually they have 1 unit contribution among 100 buildings. We aim to ensure that the number goes to 80 until 2050. These are serious targets that cannot be just achieved by the investors or industry players themselves. Here, states and policy level contributions also matter significantly, and Turkey's supporting of a Paris Agreement will enable us to make significant contributions. Let me tell you very briefly about the development of the energy efficiency regulation. Here, the infrastructure needs to be created in a public context. That's very important. We took these efficiency steps at an early time in 2007, probably in line with harmonization with the European Union acquis commune. And here Turkey showed serious motivation in terms of improving its energy efficiency. And the action plan in 2017 brought about important targets. Another important agenda item is that we have energy performance contracts. And there is this detailed circular communique, including standard contracts that came to be in 2021. So targeting by the government and showing the path forward is important for the private industry, private sector. And the detailed legislation about how to implement the energy efficiency action plans will set an example moving forward. I will tell you about its details later on. As for the renewable energy and in solar, we have made a significant progress, starting with the YEK law in 2005. And then we had a COVID-related delays in 2019 and 2020. Still, we had mini YEK tenders. And that means an ongoing process. As for another development in line with the strategy document, we can refer to solars. I will discuss them later. Here, the most important target for 2023 is an investment of $11 billion. So that means twice the amount of investments we saw in the last 2 decades. Turkey will have this much investment for energy efficiency, meaning a 14% in primary energy consumption. Here, of course, the government side, the public side makes commitments in line with the overall world. And after us becoming a supporting side of the Paris Agreement, we're going to see that the private industry deals with these efficiency issues more. And services industry, private industry companies that try to do business already feel the obligation to make certain commitments in terms of making improvements or making use of renewable energy resources. That's going to gain speed moving forward. Again, energy efficiency action plan have very precise targets. I can emphasize the less covered ones. Of course, the development of the financing mechanism is important for performance contracts, including the ESCO model. And on the other hand, we see obligation program for the contribution of energy distribution and retail companies to energy efficiency. We are waiting for this legislation. Currently, energy distribution companies only make improvements regarding their operations, but actually they do not take active roles in terms of energy efficiency practices. And here, as Enerjisa, we are one of the main actors conducting energy transmission. That's why we value it, both in gas and electricity transmission. We see that these companies need to undertake certain commitments so that they can open the way for the overall industry. Where do we stand regarding the solar energy? I can briefly refer to that and also tell you about what we do about the strategic plans. Until 2023, we plan to have 10 gigawatts of generation. That is the target for Turkey. And 2021 actually shows us that the number is 7.750, which is more or less close to that target, with over-the-roof applications and other applications. We are catching up with this target. So with YEK tenders and producers producing consumers also will enable Turkey to catch up with this 10 gigawatt target and even go beyond that. All the indicators support this target. As for the energy performance model, that's the main theme of my presentation. The energy performance model is needed by Turkey significantly. It can be renewable energy or improvements. Here, the investment project is combined with technical infrastructure, and ESCO is a model there, where big structures with end-to-end capabilities provide the services. As for the performance contract, here we have technical services and commercial financial services. And this is called the integration of the performance commitment. That also provides a very important perspective in Turkey, because generally we proceed with the contracting model where we see a lack of responsibility being assumed. But in energy efficiency, the main purpose is to ensure that a facility, for example, with clean energy purposes, serve that purpose. And here we see a 30-year period. So the performance commitment and this commitment being made by a certain party means that they need to come up with flexible financial solutions. In Germany and the United States, the recent energy efficiency projects show that in majority of cases, these ESCO model is granted, and we see actually huge investments starting with 2000s. We cannot measure it very well in Turkey because the market is in the development stage. But in America and in Germany, in such countries, you can refer to certain figures. This model is used intensively, and we see the production of such ESCO-related solutions. When we say energy performance contract or ESCO, we generally emphasize the energy efficiency, but that is not limited to energy efficiency. Renewable energy is a part of it, and here roof and land-based self-consumption solutions can be thought together with energy efficiency projects, and here we can have an energy performance contract with commitments. Of course, in order to clear the way for these models, we can offer a few services in combination, but that requires us to make progress in certain platforms. We can refer to what needs to be done in the Q&A session. But when we look at the main ESCO application and service areas, we see buildings, industrial facilities, and public service buildings. Together with ESCO, we see a considerable sophistication, as these technologies are different from each other. So accurate engineering should ensure right analysis, right project planning, and right follow-up, all of which needs to be thought end to end. So in all these fields, energy performance contract appears as the most effective model. Here we see ventilation, cooling, illumination systems, or heat provision as other types of services. So again, these services target the buildings. Very briefly, I would like to refer to the market development across the world and in Turkey. Then I want to finish my presentation. So in the current market, we have such annual sizes, which actually exceed $30 billion only through ESCO applications, and its share is over 10% in all the applications. China and the EU, China, US, and EU countries steer others, but countries like Turkey, which has a potential in terms of renewable energy, will make more effective contributions starting with 2021. We see steps taken in that direction. Our rough estimate for Turkey would be that based on the strategy documents too, it has a market size of $20 billion, and at least 1 to 5% of it can be implemented with the ESCO model. Actually, this can be even achieved at higher levels, but at least for the next 5 years, we can say that we're going to have a market share of $250 million moving forward in the next 5 years. Last but not least, I would like to focus on the focus points. Here, legislation has the utmost priority as the policy and strategies need to be supported by sub-legislation, as it is the public authority who takes the first step, and private industry or private sector follows that later on. We do not have a long-standing energy-related renewable energy infrastructures. That's why we need to work on the right standards and certifications and make generation in a healthy way. Also, we have energy performance contract practices initiated by the public authority. So here, it should point to the right direction for the private industry. When we look at the market, though, financial diversity is the most important factor. And here we see the financing of energy efficiency projects in Turkey in terms of self-consumption projects and others. It doesn't mean actually a positive cash flow, rather savings when we talk about these projects. Their financing in conducive conditions require the banking industry to get rid of the conventional approaches and develop the suitable structures accordingly. Also, here, infrastructure matters. We implement dozens of projects in real life, so infrastructures are really problematic. When you want to, for example, have an energy efficiency project in illumination, the building structure is not separated yet, or you're going to have an ESCO application, but you see the installation is not separated and you do not have any data. So that needs to be actually separated and also supported by the human resources. Thank you very much. That would be all from my presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mustafa. Let's continue with Mr. Eren. Hi, everyone. I will be sharing my presentation very quickly. Can you hear me? Can you see my presentation? Not yet. Yes, we can see now. At the outset, I would like to say that it is very valuable to be at this forum. I would like to thank Mr. Ahmet Ümit and Ms. Selen. Here, I would like to tell you a little about the structure of JLL and its goals about sustainability and where it stands in terms of achieving net zero and our practices in the field. JLL is one of the important real estate companies in the world. It is ranked as a Fortune 200 company. We represent 292 million square meters. On a global scale, we have consultancy, rental, sales, all of them are within this portfolio. And we, as part of the management, we have 501 million square meters out of this 922 million square meters. And we have around 90,000 employees in this many destinations. Also in Turkey, we work in rentals, sales, concept consultancy, and we also here do facility management. 5 million out of 501 million is accounted by Turkey. We have 32 shopping malls. And here, in addition to that, we are operational in 5 offices, and we work with 405 staff members. As for the sustainability stretch, we have put our signature under the Amazon Pledge. Amazon Pledge says that we are going to achieve the requirements of carbon emission as seen by the Paris Agreement 10 years ahead. And there are 3 important promises. The first one of which is regular reporting. Measuring the carbon emissions on a regular basis and making it public and ensuring that they are communicated through annual sustainable development reports. And we do that. Second, carbon emission elimination. And here we identify a carbon emission elimination number. Third, carbon offsetting. As we know the common practice, carbon capture projects, planting trees, and other practices can be seen. In addition to the Amazon Pledge, we also support World Green Building Council's net zero carbon buildings commitment. And here you decrease your operational carbon emission and even decrease it to 0 until 2030. Elimination of cooling gases, ending the consumption of fossil fuels are the important targets. I think the most important initiative will be the third one, which is called Science-Based Targets Initiative. Here we see the consolidation of these clear targets with numbers and achieving the emission targets in line with the Paris Agreement. I will be briefly telling about them, but let's give net figures. There's this target of 68% reduction by 2034 as part of Scopes 1 and 2, and 53% reduction as part of Scope 3. When we look at the JLL's 2020 carbon footprint, I want to show you an important item. Scope 1 and Scope 2 refers to something like 50 million tons. Scope 3 actually refers to a higher number, and part of it comes from the consumers. So JLL's sustainability strategy cannot be separated from the customers. JLL supports and wants this. Out of 14 million tons, a significant portion comes from the customers, and we have initiatives for that. As for the sustainability projects or efforts, we have the top-level management approach. In 2019, Guy Grader, heading the EMEA, now started to lead the sustainability department. And actually the company took one of the important figures in one of the important regions and placed him to this department, which is an important step. We also avoided 20,000 tons of CO2 emissions. We had sustainable building certificates for 295 buildings, customer buildings. Australia has the biggest share here, and then comes LEED, and then there's WELL, which actually started with the pandemic, the Healthy Building Certificate. As for the renewable energy projects, what do we see here in 2020? Let's take a look at the facts. We had a capacity of 67 megawatts of installation. Here we actually call for tenders, we provide consultancy, we implement such a project and deliver it to the customer. So you can think of us as a mediator here. 67 megawatts of installation was completed in 2020 by JLL. As for the planning and feasibility, we see 602 megawatts. 12 to 14 of it is located in Turkey, and in renewable energy projects, we want to attain a certain target. We have made substantial progress. How to put it? Well, we worked with well-trusted, the companies we trust much. We do not have much of an instance about ESCO, but we try to adapt it to our working methods, and we wait for the support of the relevant parties. Hopefully, we will reach a certain level there. What do we do as JLL Turkey in terms of energy efficiency projects? Well, we make them in shopping centers, offices, and industries. It can be about replacing devices or renewable energy investments. And here we recommend these investments to the building owner. And together with our partner companies, we use the developed models so that we can produce something specific to Turkey. Actually, I do not think that we stand at a very favorable point, but we will make huge progress, and we allocate significant amount of time to this as a department. We also have renewable energy investments, as I told you, and green building certificates initiatives for our customers. I look forward to meeting with you in the Q&A. Thank you, Mr. Eren. I will continue with the questions, but I will also need to check the ones asked so far. Let's start with Ms. Sıla. Green Deal, does it also cover the embodiment topic?
The Green Deal with the general framework is for the sectors in the industrial line. It covers this industrialists, green energy efficiency and other sectors. So for example, for the cement, like the infrastructure materials, there are some regulations. A Green Deal actually regulates the framework in the European Union, but it's about carbon tax, but not directly, but indirectly it covers them. One of the things that we'd like to learn is YETA, the on-site in manufacturing certificate. Will that be evaluated in the same way with the other certificates? Actually, as Eren Bey pointed out, the object in terms of science-based objectives, there is a decrease of greenhouse gases. This is a science-based objectives. What are these? The objectives of a Paris Convention. The companies which commits that they are going to make a decrease so that they can have better and clear objectives in reporting. It is about the supply of renewable energy and zeroing the emissions, but you increase the renewable energy and there is a direct pulling of the electricity energy, and many reporting systems gives better scores higher scores for on-site manufacturing. Many companies are subject to certain reporting systems, and renewable energy is taken as the intermediary energy, but it depends on the facilities of the organization. So for the companies which do not have the capacity to establish infrastructure, they are taken in another class. They are related to another class. As a note, I'd like to say that. Thank you very much. There is a question I'd like to ask Duygu Hanım. For the on the roof, for disseminating on the roof panel system, which should be followed. For the on-roof systems, I'd like to answer the question, especially that there is indirect dissemination of the system, but it is about the distribution companies have a role to play in this regard. It should be from the distribution companies, and then innovative methods should be applied, and it gives easier access to consumers. And if we think that it is, of course, the startups have important roles to play in this regard. This system should be supported with more innovative systems, and I believe that these two actually have a role to play. Thank you. There is a question from Semih Yıldız. Actually, the answer is within the question. For awareness, do you think that awareness raising should be made in academia and universities? Yes, we all believe this. If there's going to be a transformation to take place, there needs to be an awareness raising. And the awareness raising is very important so that there could be a demand for a transformation or a decision can be taken for transformation and how to we made the transformation. I'd like to ask my question to Mustafa Bey. Mustafa Bey talked about the energy performance contracts, EPCs, in Turkey for it to be disseminated, what is needed. As actually I pointed out in my presentation, and what we, based on the examples that we experienced, the distribution companies for the network companies. I'm a professional of a distribution company. In my previous career, I worked in the distribution sector for quite a long time. The first thing is that the EPC is through an enabler model, if we can say it so. So we talked about what is needed. There could be self-consumption, and in terms of saving, if it's going to be sun or whatever resource is to be found, and it has to be linked with the performance. And it is important for technical and performance sustainability. The important thing is to develop the right financial models. And as we can see, these projects are for more saving projects and very rapid projects. So it is not a mechanism for having the bonds, or it is not for there isn't any encumbrance or hypothecs shouldn't be looked here. The balance sheet of the companies, it is evaluated. As it is evaluated through the balance sheet, the important projects cannot be conducted. If there is an ESCO there, if it is strong in legal terms, and if the project structures with the right feasibility can consolidate ESCO, and the development should be made accordingly in terms of ESCO. And yes, there is a huge responsibility on the shoulders of the distribution companies, especially for the distribution projects. They're all connected to the physical networks, and we see that in the service sector, we see such projects in services sector, but it should be on the level of households. At the end of the day, the household users are the core users. So they need the support of network. There will be a huge demand for that. And of course, the network companies can be limited. If we are talking about hundreds, thousands of connections with the network, you cannot do that. So in terms of legislation, distribution companies should be regulated. Distribution companies are serving in a very regulated market. Their tasks and responsibilities are clearly defined. So they cannot respond to the end users, but they have to plan the right network plans. There is a roadmap. A roadmap study has been conducted for the network management, for the demand management, and also regarding the technologies to manage smart, there are certain technological investments, and the network companies should follow that, and of course the infrastructures should be prepared. All these projects, I'm talking about energy efficiency, they are applied in not so efficient old buildings. So from the plumbing system, it should be prepared accordingly for the old buildings. And of course, there needs to be an ecosystem that is to be developed. In Turkey, there are 50 companies for energy efficiency. This ecosystem is providing consultancy services. However, for the certification and with the right energy profiling, the standards should support them, and we are lacking that standards actually right now. And in terms of EPC, in order for projects to be developed, the energy supply projects should be consolidated with the saving methods. So of course, on markets there is a depthness problem. You know, the energy focuses are limited to 1 year. If we are talking about a renewable energy or energy efficiency project, there is the contracts has to be for 5 years or for a decade, for 10 years. So these should be integrated with each other for the remaining energy to be supplied. There needs to be a depthness in the market. So of course, for the public and for the private sector, there is a lot of responsibility to be assumed. There are a lot of parameters for EPCs to realize their potential. Thank you. I have a question for Eren Bey. In our country, what is the level of energy efficiency applied in our country? I'll tell you right away, it is not in a very good level. There are 50 companies, as Mustafa Bey pointed out. There are 50 energy efficiency measurement companies. It's a legal responsibility that you have to have it for every 4 years. But I know that these reports are just for this legal necessity. CAPEX costs us a very heavy, and in 4 years return of investment time, the investors say that 4 years is very long. This is very interesting, but the investors have a hard time looking ahead. And the green building certificates, we are at a very good stage. But on the other hand, the certificate taken in the construction of the building is not sustained. Building architecturally can be green building, but it is not sustained in real terms. The buildings are not digitalized enough. There could be an automation system in the construction. However, the maintenance cost is very high, and the users and the technical technical staff, they cannot use that. Therefore, it is not used as the automation systems are not used as they should be used. And with the facility, there are a lot of buildings working with the facility companies. They cannot do that alone, and their staff is not knowledgeable in this regard. So there isn't such a vision there. So the energy efficiency cannot be established in the buildings. So it is not in the stage that we wanted to, but it is not in a stage that cannot be developed. It can be developed. And with awareness raising, with a good process management, I think that we can achieve a good level in carbon emission. Thank you. I'll ask Sıla Hanım right now for the renewable energy certificate and taking energy efficiency resources. Is it the same thing or not? Actually, it is similar to other subjects. The reporting systems accept one thing. For example, Green has gas protocol or ISO, and you can make your renewable energy contract, and the certificate proves that. If the system allows, if it is proven with other certificates, the standards are accepted. But if you take your electricity separately from the system, and when you receive the renewable energy contract, the renewable energy electricity contract is zeroed then. But this is on voluntary basis. So as an institution, as an organization, it is about how you launch it and how you can work. And it's about making deals with from renewable energies and also taking the related certificates. But this is my own understanding. The reporting systems actually can take both of them. You talked about peer-to-peer commerce, Duygu, and for that to happen, there needs to be different parties, and there needs to be an establishment and building of a community. Could you please talk about this in terms of peer-to-peer commerce? Thank you, Selen Hanım. As I pointed out in my presentation, the community models are very common in Europe, and it will be more disseminated in the future, as it can be read in research papers. Community models can be best reflected in cooperatives. In Turkey, there are different energy cooperatives in Turkey. If I am to give an example, for example, Troya Environmental Association, they started generating their electricity energy, and in Turkey, among cooperatives, there's an allowance for the individual commerce of energy. So within that framework, the structuring of the cooperatives and being a pioneer in this regard is a very important role for development of peer-to-peer commerce. So the first thing is that the cooperatives are a starting point in Turkey with the dissemination of peer-to-peer commerce and awareness raising activities in this regard. Thank you. I'll have a question to Mustafa Bey. For energy performance contracts, for EPC contracts, we see that industry is going a bit further, and the commercial buildings are on the upfront, but there are also houses. So in terms of EPC models, do you think that EPC models can be applied for the households in the future? So I will say yes, this is a necessity, actually, a requirement, because there is most of the issues on the potential is on the households, and this potential is to be realized with the directing of public. We just entered into the stage of EPC, energy performance contracts. Of course, in the infrastructure, there is the price escalation issue, or also validity of the offers, and in such details, these details actually affect the commercial model, and there are certain issues to be re-evaluated, as in the industry and in the service sector. This development will gain momentum and it will continue, and there needs to be an ecosystem to be established. It's a very cliche expression, but we need, in terms of finance and in terms of technical adequacy and technical performance, we need this. Only with the EPCs, it is not easy to have them, and the technical capabilities may not be very adequate. So they are providing very critical services, and they are providing important services. But in order to have it in the, of course, the human resources should be developed in a very important manner. The ethics, these are ethics investments, so the investment costs are not very high. When you go to the household level, the unit costs are improving and increasing. So for these investments to become rentable, as a contribution to this ecosystem, the cost should be in a certain level, and the sector should make, there needs to be a certain scale for the market to achieve that. And for the households, one of the most important thing is to provide end-to-end services for energy efficiency and other services. For example, for the heat exchangers, providing the same service, or if there is a solar panel on the roof, the energy efficiency service should be taken to there. Of course, EPC will develop, but first the private sector and the public sector, you need to achieve a certain level, as Eren Bey was explaining. Of course, the industries should be, among industries, awareness raising should be made, and it's not only about return of investments, and we are for public with the Union of Municipalities and other organizations. We put our efforts there. It is not like establishing a new line of SME, but there are very good projects. And in terms of self-consumption in Adana, Gaziantep, Mersin, Antalya, there are important return of investment times, but you have to be purified from the conventional models as a mindset, and ecosystem will converge them, and it will, of course, households will be involved, but we need some more time. Thank you. There are carbon certificates, Sıla Hanım, and renewable energy certificates. These two can be confused with each other. What is the difference of two? The carbon decrease certificates or credits actually mean that for what is the carbon emission decrease for unit, in this calculation, the network, this depends on the network, and it depends on the methodology as well. For example, in Turkey, for wind energy power plant, for 1 megawatt per hour, it is 0.60 megawatt per hour. But for the renewable energy certificates, this is for the 1 megawatt hour is one certificate, and when you go into the essence of this 1 megawatt hour is not the same, but in terms of use, renewable energy certificates are under the scope 2, and it can be zeroed. However, carbon decrease certificates, it covers for neutralizing all the emissions from different fuels. Carbon decrease certificates have a larger scope in this respect. There are a few questions from Eren Çiftçi. Most probably we will not have time to answer these questions, but what I'm going to ask Duygu Hanım will answer that question as well. For the on-the-roof solar panels, what can be the alternative finances? Thank you, Selen Hanım. For the on-the-roof systems, it is a leasing generally, or with the fund support of development banks. There are credits and loans, and for these systems, if the person has the capability, they can pay from their own pocket. There could be new models that can be developed in the world. There are massive fund systems objecting only at solar energy, and at the same time, European Union and UNDP, within the scope of green economy, there are some funds that they provide. As pointed out, of course, it is about awareness raising and ensuring access to these funds that they can only be used this way. Of course, there are certain methods, but it should be disseminated to the people, and it is about how it can be open for the use of normal users. Regarding the question, I don't know whether that answered Eren Hanım's question or not, but if that is a different question, I'll try to answer that. If we have some time, I will ask the question, but we will not most probably have the chance to answer that question. Maybe later you can answer. And Cihan Alçelik also asked a question. They made a comment. I read the comment. Full of grid. We are working on full of grid systems, and in turn, I think that we believe that focusing all on energy will not be enough. Now there's a question to Mustafa Bey. In terms of energy in industry and in households, can you talk about the services that you provide in terms of sustainability? Of course, we built it as a program. We called it as YEK-G. We focus on the industry, the ecosystem and the potential will be developed there. And the segment here is the public sector and industry and the service. And for the public, there are transportation companies and water distribution companies in the industry, manufacturing sector, and sectors with a high use of energy, and in services and the tourism sector and health services, with the segments with large consumption and large buildings. So self-consumption projects could be roof or could be land projects, plus energy efficiency, cogeneration practices, and also it is under the roof umbrella program of YEK-G, and it's a performance energy performance contract. It is like an EPC. As actually we with the capabilities of private models, we developed the financial models when we provide service, end-to-end service, and develop the project right from the very start and make the implementation and provide the maintenance services. We are talking about the long-term contracts based on the index on the performance of the system. The performance risk is assumed by us. This is a model that we developed, and within this scope, in TT Arena in Galatasaray, we will finalize our project there. And if you are using the TAM highway, you will see the activities going on there. Ali Samiyen is the correction of the name of TT Arena. I think that you're a fan of Galatasaray, so we already realized this for Adana, for superstructure, for the rail systems. We provided a renewable energy systems contract, and we made an EPC, long-term EPC, and we changed the spare parts in plumbing in 20,000 of them in public, and now we are involved in the processes in the industry, for example, pressurized air, climate systems, and air conditioning systems. For ESCO models, we provide these end-to-end services with these models, and at the same time, we have the market actors with us. Certain companies with providing certain level of quality, and also there are companies providing us with the engineering and verification models. So we have made quite an impressive progress, and after 2021 we will develop this YEK-G concept, and we will be in the sector with the YEK-G, Energy of My House project. Thank you very much. A question to Eren Bey. As Turkey, in what stage are we in terms of green building certificates? What are the challenges that you experience transiting to green energy? What are the challenges that we experience in terms of transition to green energy? Actually, this is directly the Sıla Hanım's subject, as one is purchasing green energy and also placing the solar panels on the rooftops of the buildings. The challenge that we experience, especially for the shopping mall projects, the renters demand. The renters should demand this directly from us, so that investments and can be shared, and the costs are very high. JLL use this as this is not something we can do as JLL, as it's a global strategy in the Texas area for the textile company. They are questioning the energy that they are receiving, but they are not questioning the energy that they are purchasing from the shopping mall. I don't know why the companies should come to us with a demand. This is one of the first challenge. The second is that there are the regulations which puts a barrier to the solar panel placement on the rooftops. The projects cannot be reflected to renters, and the renters cannot use green energy. They cannot use the energy with a good cost. So this system cannot be operated in our system. In the buildings where the renter pays for the energy, this system does not work. We are looking for partner companies. There is only one company that we can work together, and we will make a progress with them, and then maybe there will be other companies to work with. And the most important challenge is that it's about awareness raising of the investors. All of the panelists focus on their attention on this. The building owners, the users, the renters, there should be awareness raising, because they always think that I make this investment and after 2 years will there be something better, because these investments are for 15 years and 20 years. So the energy consumption can be exponentially better or not. They are thinking this, and this is a challenge actually in green energy. And for green building certificates, as we are at a very good stage actually, very good level for the LEED certificate. In 2020, we ranked the 6th actually. 3 or 4 years ago, this is the same. I get this information from Smart Eco expert Koray Bey, and we actually are involved in many disciplines. The public buildings, textile companies, hospitals, they have to have these certificates. For example, a company working for Decathlon needs to have the LEED certificate. For the hotels, there's 15% of incentive, and in Turkey is a economy growing with the construction, and as this requirement from the sector, we are at a very good level, but we are having problems about operations. People receive the green building certificates, however, it cannot be sustained, and it is not renewed in 3 years, or that there are such problems. And so we are at the end of the time allocated to us. So this has been a very nice session. I'd like to thank all the panelists, and I'd like to thank all the audience and participants. This is the first day of Zero Build, and I wish you a very good week, and I hope that you will follow the other sessions as well. Thank you very much. See you. Thank you.